Welcome to Thoughtful Planning, the place where real conversation, expert insight, and a touch of humor meet to turn our end-of-life uncertainties into self-assurance. I'm your co-host Santiago, a history buff and a big kid at heart.
And I'm Honey, your guide through the intricate dance of planning with care and a whole lot of warmth. Every week, we're here to turn those intimidating "are we ready" moments into confident "everything is under control" moments. Today's journey is one you won't want to miss. Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey.
And I'm Santiago. Before we begin, please note that we're not medical doctors or medical professionals or anything like that. The information we're going to share with you in this episode is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice in any way, shape, or form. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional for decisions related to your own health and end-of-life planning.
All right, so let's get started. So I'll be graduating from my death doula class soon. And in the class, I learned some topics that I didn't know existed and actually can be controversial, but are important to discuss. And these topics are medical aid in dying, also known as MAID, and then voluntary stop eating and drinking, also known as VSED. These are options some people can consider to take control of their end-of-life journey.
Yeah. And as we learn more and we do more research in all of this planning, Honey and I continue to have very difficult discussions with each other about different options that are available to us on this end-of-life journey. But before we dive in too deep, let me ask you the essential question so you can take note. What does it mean to truly have control over the way you die? And how do these options help you achieve that?
Great question. All right, so we believe that by understanding these options, we can better respect and honor each individual's choices when it comes to their final days. So let's start with MAID. Medical aid in dying is a legal option in some states that allows terminally ill adults to request a prescription for medication they can self-administer to peacefully end their lives. It's often for those who have less than 6 months to live.
And it's important to note that MAID isn't really the same as discontinuing life support, which is stopping extraordinary measures when further treatment is deemed futile. In MAID, the individual must be mentally capable and be able to self-administer the medication to themselves. The process is heavily regulated and requires multiple doctor approvals, multiple safeguards. It includes confirming the diagnosis with at least two physicians and a waiting period to ensure that everybody has informed consent of what you plan to do.
So as of December 5th of 2024, MAID is legal in 11 U.S. jurisdictions, including California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Montana, New Mexico, Vermont, Maine, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., and Hawaii. However, laws vary, so it's crucial to check your state's specific requirements.
And while it gives some people the sense of control and peace, it's not an easy decision to make. When she was talking about her classes, my the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up a little bit about, what are we going to do? It's a deeply personal choice that often involves decisions with your family, your medical providers, and your spiritual advisors. It's not something you should take lightly.
Great. What I do like about this option is I would have the choice. So it's estimated that of all the people who are approved for MAID, that actually up to 37% of these people, they never actually follow through with it. They just want that option of choice. And for anyone considering this option, we encourage you to reach out to organizations like Compassion and Choices or speak to your healthcare provider for guidance and support.
Cool. Now, VSED, a little bit different than MAID, which is another way that individuals can take that choice and take control of their own dying process. Honey, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So again, VSED, this stands for voluntary stop eating and drinking. And it's when a mentally capable person with a terminal or chronic illness chooses to stop eating and drinking as a way to hasten their death. And by doing so, the body just naturally begins to shut down.
One of the key differences between VSED and MAID is that VSED doesn't require any legal permission. It's a choice that anyone can make regardless of where they live, as long as they're mentally competent.
That's right, but it's just not an easy path. VSED requires significant support from caregivers, family, and often a hospice team. And not all hospice teams will assist, so it's important that you ask the question when you're interviewing a hospice team. The process can take 1 to 3 weeks or give or take. It all depends on the individual person. And the individual's comfort must be closely managed. You're going to um, in the first 3 days you might be able to still walk, but after that you probably won't be able to walk anymore. You might be bedbound. You're going to need a significant amount of help, um, and probably there's going to be pain too. So
Yeah, so VSED is often chosen by people who may not qualify for MAID. They live in one of those 11 jurisdictions where or they don't live in one of those 11 jurisdictions where it's legal. And it's just another way to exercise a little autonomy over how and when you your life ends.
right. And just like MAID, VSED involves tough conversations and planning. It's crucial to ensure that the decision aligns with the individual's values and is made with full understanding of the process.
So let's compare the two options real brief. MAID requires legal authorization and is only available in those 11 jurisdictions with a prescription that you have to self-administer. While VSED does not include any prescriptions, doesn't require any legal authorizations or any permissions from someone else. However, both require that you be mentally competent before you start, and you have to have a strong, strong support system. But VSED takes a bit.
Right. Another difference is the timeline. MAID tends to bring a faster end, often within hours of taking the medication, whereas VSED is a lot slower process, sometimes taking weeks. And this can impact how families prepare and support their loved one because, again, this requires really full family support, 24-hour care, because you're not, again, you're going to end up bedbound at some point and you're going to need that help.
Now, both of these options, like we've said, require careful consideration not only by yourself but by your family. And then you have to make sure that you plan for all of this, like Honey said about hospice, because every little, like if you chose VSED, every little sip of water that you take would prolong the process. So if you're taking meds, pain meds, something like that, that could increase the timeline. Families are going to struggle with these choices either way, which is why you have to start having these hard conversations now. Gain support of your professionals. So, because really the professionals are the folks that can help make the difference in all of this.
Hmm. Absolutely. These decisions are never easy, but for some, they provide a sense of peace and control.
So, let's talk a little bit about our own choices. Since we live in Texas, MAID isn't legal here. Now, what would our choices be? So, when I went through cancer, you know this, I went from 185 down to 134 in a matter of weeks. I was drinking, but really my body was eating itself, and I lost a lot of weight,
Actually,
and I could not get around.
you really weren't drinking. You weren't
Mm.
able to.
Well, I was getting fluids
Yeah, you were
through
still getting
I was
fluids.
getting fluids when they were pumping fluids into me. So it was, it was hard, and just that little time was rough.
Right. So if I had a choice, it would be MAID, but since I don't, then I would choose VSED. And I know that would be hard. And I um, hope I don't have to. But because I don't have a choice in my state, I have reached out to Compassion and Choices to volunteer and get involved in the legislative process. So, in hopes that when that time comes, maybe I will have that choice. And I'll include the link in the show notes to Compassion and Choices if you would like to research them further.
So with her choice, we've had this conversation many times, and I know that she was my primary care provider when I was going through my cancer fight, and that was rough on her. You know, seeing me go from a guy that was running around acting the fool with the kiddos at school to someone where she would have to literally walk behind me to make sure I wouldn't fall. And I don't know if I'd be strong enough to see her go through that. Um, but that would be her choice. And I want to help also with this because my fight wasn't terminal. It was, there was a good chance that I was going to survive, well, depending who we talk to, 65 to 70%, I was going to get over this. But if it's one of those things where it's terminal, there's like no other choice, you're going to pass. I know that I would not want to put her through that, where she would have to constantly care for me and, what did we say earlier? Wipe my butt. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want her to do that. But I just think that VSED is just tough. And it would be tough on the survivors, her, my kids, and all that stuff. I don't know if I'd want to put them through that. But I do think MAID is, I mean, makes sense to
Mhm.
me.
Yep.
So, if you're terminal, you've got 6 months, there's going to, I would like to have that option there. So when the time comes for me, I could look at Honey and say, it's rough, it's time.
Right. And I've watched, like I said, I've gone through the doula class, and in the doula class, they show us videos of, and you can find these videos on YouTube, um, where it shows families that do go through the VSED process. Um, and it shows, you can make it as peaceful as you can in a very loving environment. Um, that is possible if you know that it's a
Yeah,
choice.
yeah. I mean, would I do it? Yes, because I know it's your choice. But it would probably be a decision that would haunt me for the rest of my days, seeing her go like that. Um, so anyway, this is, I mean, we've had multiple discussions about this, and I think this, as we've always said, make have these discussions now. That way, you truly understand what we're going to get. We're entering through the pact that we're making with each other, that you're making with your family. Talk to them. Let them know. Say, hey, look, this is what we want. This is how, if this happens, please don't stop it. You know, um,
Right, support me in
support.
my choice.
Yes.
And they also say, like, make videos of you while you're still clear of mind making that choice, and reminding, because in that 10 days there will be a little you'll get delirious, is what I've read. um Maybe that won't happen in all cases, but it could happen. And then you might say, like, hey, I want to drink something. And actually, it is said that your loved ones can say, remember, you said you wanted VSED. Are you sure you want to drink something now? And if they say yes, then you can't withhold the food or drink
You
from
can't
them.
withhold the care. You know.
You have to give them the drink if that's what they end up wanting. The only thing is, like, as time goes on, as the days go by, and your body's starting to shut down, if you the longer you wait to make that choice to continue eating and drinking, that can also cause an effect on your body to
Yeah.
then put that food or drink back in your mouth.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think that having that discussion, like we've had multiple times, taping it. So, Shelby, Bub, this is what we want. But I think that fighting the good fight and going up to Texas and saying, "Hey, look, this is a compassionate way, so that a person doesn't and a family really doesn't have to suffer seeing that slow death, the slow process." In either in either correction VSED or with whatever illness they have, taking them over 6 months. How hard is that going to be, and how costly? Because we brought up the cost too,
Right.
cost of care. So
it's dying with dignity.
yes, it's exactly right. I mean, dying with dignity on your own terms.
Right.
So, well, we hope this episode has raised a little questions. I know it's going to spark some conversations and maybe a little controversy in your home. But we encourage you to explore the resources like Compassionate Choices or speak with your healthcare provider. They're not going to bring this up to you, but you can talk to them about it and get more information on it.
Right. And if you're struggling to talk about these topics, remember that you're not alone. These conversations are hard, but they're also acts of love for your family. All right. So thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might find it helpful.
Yes. So back to our essential question. What does it truly mean to have control over the way you die? And how do these options that we talked about today, MAID, VSED, help you achieve that?
Well, until next time, remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you for joining us at Thoughtful Planning.
Bye now.
And just like the vibrant hues of a setting sun, we're wrapping up another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Every shared story and insight is a step closer to turning uncertainty into celebrations of preparedness.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, remember that every surprise that comes our way is an opportunity to grow, adapt, and learn. Stay tuned for more stories, expert insight, and of course, a touch of wit in our next episode.
We're not just co-hosts, we're fellow travelers on this journey. For more information on additional resources, which will help you take the next step in planning, look for the link in the show notes for our membership. Join us next time for another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Until then, keep living, laughing, and loving every moment.